I'm trying to walk from one end of São Paulo to the other, following the path of a subway line, but not in the tunnels, completely above ground. Why? Well, if you've watched part 1 of this journey, you'll know that it's because I've taken the subway many times since moving here. But underground, you have no idea what's going on above. And I don't want to know São Paulo from below. I want to know the city. If you've just joined us, we're here, about halfway through that journey. We still have to get all the way to the Estação da Luz, the station of light at the end of the yellow line, with only a few hours left before sunset. Okay, so we're almost there. The station is just coming up ahead, but I wanted to stop here because this right behind us is Avenida Paulista. It's without a doubt the most important street, at least culturally, in all of São Paulo. Avenida Paulista means person from São Paulo Avenue. It was inaugurated in 1891. It was, right now you might not feel it, but my legs certainly feel it. We're at the top of a hill in São Paulo. This is the top of the hill. It's 827 meters above sea level. And like I said, it was inaugurated as the first street in São Paulo to get asphalt. Originally, this was a place for the very, very wealthy coffee farmers who moved in from the interior, rural areas of São Paulo, and who were overlooking the center of São Paulo. It was up here at this Avenida Paulista. This giant avenue was, for decades, way off the map of what even constituted São Paulo. The area in Tupi was called Caguassu, which means Mata Grande. These maps helped me wrap my head around the scale of São Paulo's transformation. And to think that an area once considered total wilderness would be central to São Paulo's identity blows my mind. Do you see it there on the map? And legend has it, it was originally going to be named after Joaquim Eugênio de Lima, who was an important figure at the time, but he refused. He said, no, this should be an avenue for all of the Paulistas. And it is until this day. The big houses are mostly gone. Now it's big buildings. It became the center of finance for a long time. It's still very important here. But this huge, wide avenue is central to São Paulo's identity as a city. Let's go. A video for another day. A street for another day. This is an important point to mention. So we're in front of a store called Pernambucanas. And if you look, let's look this way. It's a store that sells clothes and all kinds of other things.
Who's helping me film all this?
And if you look at the name of the station, Paulista, it's actually called Paulista Pernambucanas. It's a sponsored station stop. And why do they do that? Well, they did it for a couple of different reasons. Okay, let's come in here. You can look down here too. So why is this called Estação Paulista Pernambucanas? Main reason, money. The city of São Paulo has given naming rights to a lot of different areas. There's a couple of subway stations that have a second name, a last name that's sponsored. And it's estimated that the city of São Paulo per month gets
342,000
million reais for these kinds of things. That includes the stadiums, the stations, the train stations throughout the metro and the train systems. So it's a pretty reasonable deal, I think, in the city of São Paulo's eyes. Now we're going on to our next station, Higienópolis, Mackenzie, another one of those sponsored station stops. So let's head on that way.
Estação. Station.
Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow line. Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow line. Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow line. Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow line. The yellow line is calling and I've got to go. Yellow line is what I see, it's all I know. The yellow line is calling and I've got to go. The yellow line is what I see, it's all I know.
time is ticking. It's 5 to 5. We started out at noon. We've got to try and get to the very end at Luz. I don't know if we're going to make it, seriously. The next station is Higienópolis, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a university that was founded by British priests. It's a private university. And Higienópolis, which means hygienic city in the Greek that they invented, was the Avenida Paulista before there was an Avenida Paulista. It's about halfway up the hill that Avenida Paulista is on, and it also had a big avenue, Avenida Higienópolis, huge houses, the very wealthy people who were moving slowly out of the center. They wanted some place that was clean, that was beautiful, that was well kempt for them. That was kempt, which isn't a word, but I'm going to use it. This is the reason for the naming rights. Mackenzie is the university. It's right across the street. Higienópolis, one of the most luxurious streets at the time. This was again in the time when São Paulo was industrializing tremendously. This is the time when, let me stand over here. This was in the time when coffee was a big deal. Slavery had just been abolished. And so São Paulo could consolidate its wealth into its own state and its own city. There are many coffee farms in the northeast of the state of São Paulo, and all that coffee had to come through São Paulo to be sent to the port in Santos, where, like I mentioned before, it was the biggest exporter of coffee in Brazil. Brazil produced 4/5 of the coffee in the entire world, and most of that coffee came out of the port of Santos, which came out of São Paulo. And so those wealthy people who were originally moving all their stuff through the center of the financial district down in the center of São Paulo, which we're on our way to go see. They were living up here in Higienópolis before they moved up to Avenida Paulista. Huge moment, huge moment. We're learning about São Paulo history through the subway stops. How crazy is that? So now on to República. As we walked along the road, it became impossible to ignore something that I hadn't mentioned until now. Street art alert. So there's a lot of street art around here on huge, huge walls. I think Natalia has been filming some of them. And the big deal here is that there was a law passed in São Paulo that was you can't have advertisements outdoor, big outdoor billboards. So what did they do with all the extra space? They hired artists to beautify the streets of São Paulo, and I think they really succeeded. Golden hour. How do I look? This is Praça President Roosevelt, I think. Yeah, up. Yeah, President Roosevelt. One of the exciting things about taking this path, right, is that I can only estimate so much beforehand. I mean, I looked on the map, I did this on Google Earth, I tried to figure out exactly where it would be going so that I could look some stuff up so I didn't look like a total buffoon. But I can't anticipate everything. So why is this plaza called President Roosevelt? I have no idea. Why? But I'm going to find that out. It looks like it was named after the American president shortly after the Second World War, given that he had died of a stroke just months into his 4th term in office. Oh, what's that? You already know. You already know. The air vent unlocked. At this point, we decided to make several spontaneous detours to explore things that just caught our eye. This church, Nossa Senhora da Consolação, turned out to be the church for which this avenue was renamed in 1801. Before that, this street was an old path between the center of São Paulo and the village of Pinheiros, which we passed through. It's crazy to think that this area was once the outskirts of a town with very few inhabitants. The current grand church was built in around 1907, and its 75-meter tower is now dwarfed by nearby buildings. Still, a pretty cool find, just wandering into something, don't you think? Here we are. Okay, now we're still on Avenida Consolação. We're still on Consolação. The vibe has completely changed because of the trees. You can feel the temperature is much lower. Also because it's later at night. We're approaching Estação República. And by approaching, I mean, By approaching, I mean we're kind of in the zone of, we're probably closer to República than we were to Higienópolis. República is a really important station, again, for the history of São Paulo and for the culture of São Paulo. Why is it called República? Republic? Because in 1889, Brazil was declared a republic. Before that, it was an empire with connections to Portugal. It was part of Portugal. The year before, in 1888, slavery was abolished here, but it continued to be one of the most important aspects of the economy. 400,000 enslaved people brought from Africa to the United States. In Brazil, it was more than 4 million. The estimates range between 4 and 5 million people who were brought to Brazil. It was huge, it was huge. Enslaved people were involved in sugar, in coffee, in tobacco. As a matter of fact, if you look at the original seal of the Empire of Portugal in Brazil, there are 2 branches. One is tobacco and one is coffee. So that's crazy. That's a huge legacy of São Paulo and of Brazil in general. But as we're going to República, it was kind of a turning point in Brazil's history when they declared themselves a republic and they were joining other big countries like France, the United States, who were kind of freeing themselves from monarchy in a different way. There's a lot more to talk about there, but we're going to get there. So this is the Piso Paulista, in other words, the ground of the Paulistas. While in Rio, the sidewalks there, which are famous in Ipanema and Copacabana, these ones were designed by a woman named Mirtes Bernardes. As a matter of fact, while the sidewalk in Rio is historically named and can't be changed and has to be continually updated, the sidewalk in São Paulo is not that way. And so you'll find huge parts of it taken out and put concrete, which is a shame for the incredible designer who died in 2020 without too much recognition. So remember that name, Mirtes Bernardes. I'll put a picture here. And yeah, what a great thing. And guess who put the sidewalk in? Do you remember? Faria Lima, Mayor Faria Lima in the 60s. So everything fits together. Everything's fitting together in this beautiful tapestry. One of the things I realized I did not fit into the beautiful tapestry is why the Piso Paulista looks like that. And the reality is it's a stylized version of the shape of the state of São Paulo. If you want to learn even more and see some original documents, this research paper is an incredible resource. Anyway. Oh boy, we're getting close. So something really exciting that we're getting here because of the time is we're gonna be arriving here in the middle of rush hour, which in São Paulo is notoriously crazy time. I think we're gonna enjoy ourselves.
Who's helping me film all this?
We're in the center of São Paulo. This was that area that the people from Higienópolis were trying to get out of because this was where everything was happening. For this part of the walk, I didn't want to have my camera out like a lunatic tourist, so I kept it about waist level, which means that you get an idea of what it looks like, but not exactly a full picture. So feeling bad, I went back a couple of days later to give you a better idea of what the area around Estação República looks like. Okay, golden hour update for you. Here we are at a very famous intersection, made famous by the singer Caetano Veloso, Avenida Ipiranga e São João. Something happens to meu coração when I pass the crossing of Ipiranga and São João. Desculpa, eu completamente destruí. We passed another piece of street art, which is one of my favorites in the whole city, and another sign we were on the right track. Air vent alert. Before almost arriving at Estação da Luz, which we've been trying to get to since the very beginning. Estação da Luz, whose tower we can see right up ahead, you'll see, I'll show you in just a second, was the center of industrialization in São Paulo and in a lot of ways in Brazil. The first trains arrived in Brazil in the 1860s. And where did they go? They started from Santos, the port of Santos, and they went all the way to here. They had to climb this very tough hill up the Serra do Mar, the mountains of the sea. The first trains arrived in the 1860s. In 1870s, the first little trams were in the city. There wasn't a hope of a metro yet. That wouldn't come until at least 100 years later. So this station was it was a big deal. It was a big deal for people at that time. It was not the first version of the station, which was built when the trains arrived in the 1860s. But when it was finally built in 1900 and inaugurated in 1901, it was a monument to the people. And it was built by a company who had an English name, São Paulo Railway Company, traces of which can be found on the building itself. It was a monument to industrialization, to the modernization of Brazil, to a kind of new era for this burgeoning new country. And Luz, Estação da Luz, it means the station of light. What more powerful symbol than that? Than light to be given to the people of São Paulo and given to the people of Brazil. The station that we started at, Vila Sônia, has a pretty high rate of people. But Estação da Luz,
144,000.
people a day on average come through this station. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. I want to pause here because this was a crazy moment. When we set out this morning, we weren't sure we were going to make it through the heat, the traffic, the distractions.
Look, Russia.
But here, as we were approaching the station of light, the literal light at the end of our metaphorical tunnel, it felt like it was possible. Like I was finally going to get to know São Paulo, and I was psyched. Holy cow. This is gonna... We started this journey going down an escalator, and here we are ending this journey going down an escalator. There's a couple of people here. We're not alone. This is the Estação da Luz. Wow. We made it. Look at how beautiful this place is. I mean, it's incredible. So what did we learn? Well, going from Vila Sônia all the way to Estação da Luz. What did we learn? We learned that the world is a lot more complicated than this simple little map makes it look. We passed through some very industrial areas, beautiful treed areas. And we passed through a lot of points of history in Brazil and São Paulo's story. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe we'll have another adventure like this soon. A homebound adventure, you could say. Though this is the final stop of this journey, I hope it can be the first stop for a much longer one.
Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow line. Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow line. Going on the yellow line, the yellow line, the yellow.
Também eu queria agradecer vocês, os brasileiros que assistiram esse vídeo. Eu nunca imaginei que fosse ter tanta gente que gostasse desse vídeo e que conseguisse achar, mas eu tô muito feliz com vocês, obrigado por todos os seus comentários, por me corrigir quando eu fiz algumas coisas ou por mostrar uma coisa mais legal ainda. Adorei. Em breve eu vou ter outros vídeos explicando de quem eu sou, de onde eu sou, então se você quiser saber, se você quiser descobrir esse mistério, melhor se inscrever, né? Só, quer dizer, eu não tô te forçando nada, mas... Ó, tô te prometendo, vai vir, você vai saber.